This week I take a poke at Active Directory certificate services. What are they? How do they work? And as always, can I do this session in 20 minutes? Let's find out, shall we? Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP. So nice to see you here, especially if this is your first visit to the site. Okay, this week I thought I'd take a look at an absolute classic. A little while back I did a session on Active Directory, which comes part of Microsoft Windows Server, of course. And I've had loads of requests for certificate services. So I thought, well, okay, let's do 20-minute demo and let's talk about how to set it up, how to configure it, and more importantly, how it works and how it thinks. Okay, so this is an all demo hands-on thing. So definitely stick around because this is such an important topic. Now, as always, if you've got comments, questions about this or any of my other sessions, then just get them down below and I'll do my best for you. And if you enjoy the session, please bump that like button. It really does help my channel. And as always, if you've not subscribed, then hit the subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications of new videos. Okay, so I think without any further ado, I think it's about time we get on with the demo, and I hope that you find it useful. Thanks. Okay, so let's take a look at installing Active Directory certificate services on Windows Server. So what I'm going to do is I'm just flipping over here and I'm going into Server Manager. Now, certificate services is a major role on the server. So we click on to add roles and services. And I'm just going to say, yep, next, that's fine. And as I said, it's a role-based or feature-based installation. So I'm going to click next. And I've only got one server in this network, so I'm just going to install one. And I'm going to come up to the top of the page here, and you can see that it's highlighted at the moment. And again, there are other roles and things that you can highlight and switch on. For the purpose of this, I'm going to do this. Now you can see it's also asking us, do I want to install additional features as well? So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to click on next. All right. Now, again, there are additional features that you can switch on. So certificate services comes as a number of different modules, as you'll see in a moment or two. All right. So I'm happy with this at the moment. It also shows me those additional services or additional features that I'm going to bring in. Okay, so clicking next, you can see here are those additional modules. So you've got the basic certificate authority. I'm going to install certificate web services, of course, and this will integrate it with IIS or Internet Information Services. I'm also installing the certificate enrollment web services for my users, and I'm also going to add in the certificate authority. And I'm also going to bring in the online responder service as well. So again, these are the associated features that it's going to install and the various services. So I'm just going to click on install and off that goes. Okay, so once it's installing, you can close it down, by the way. You don't need to wait for the screen to finish. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit that close button. Okay, so if I click into certificate services now, so I'm going to come down into Server Manager again. I'm going to click on Certificate Authority, and the Management Console tries to open, but you can see I get an error message. And this is just basically, this error message is just telling me, hey, look, you know, the service hasn't finished installing yet. Okay, so after a short while, you can now see there's a little exclamation mark and a triangle. And it says, okay, the service has been installed, and now I need to go ahead and configure the service. And this opens up the wizard to start things off. And first it's asking me for enterprise admin credentials, which it's already detected that I'm logged on. So I'm just going to click next. And this is where I can now go ahead and install those various modules. So I want to configure the various modules now. So I'm just going to go ahead and configure most of these. Now you'll notice there's one that gives me an error message, and the reason is because I didn't go ahead and install that particular service. Okay, so at this point it's now specifying the type of setup. So am I looking to set up either a standalone certificate authority, or is this going to be part of an enterprise organization? So a standalone, you might put on a standalone server. Because we've got an Active Directory domain, I'm going to choose a root authority. And it's saying, okay, so I'm choosing a root authority. Is this the only server? Now, because this is the first server, it will now create a private key for the server. Whereas if I'm joining an authority, it will ask me to provide the key that was previously created. Okay. Now it's asking me what cryptographic options do I want to choose. So again, this is the algorithm for signing certificates that are going to be used by the certificate authority. So in this case, I'm going to choose SHA-256. And clicking next, you can see it asks me for a common name, and it makes some suggestions here, and it also gives you a distinguished name suffix, as well as the LDAP name as well at the bottom. How long do I want the certificate to be valid? Okay, now again, with good security, you don't want to have certificates, especially operational certificates, valid for too long. But because it's a server, I'm okay with this at the moment. Then it's asking me what type of authentication do I want? How am I going to authenticate with a certificate? Well, because I'm using Active Directory, I'm just going to go ahead and accept the Windows authentication. Okay, now it's asking me specify a server certificate, and this is empty, and it's empty because we haven't created one yet. So we'll be able to come back to this once the service has been properly configured. All right, so for the purpose now, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to click on configure. Okay, so you can see it gives me an overview of all the services that I'm installing. Am I ready to configure it? Yes, I am. So I just click on the configure button, and this goes off, and you can see now that everything is starting to look pretty good. So click on close, and that's my certificate authority set up. Okay. Now at this point, if I'd chosen to install any additional modules, which I did, it's now asking me, do I want to now configure the other role services? And again, a very similar configuration comes in. And you can see it's automatically selected those services this time for me. And there's no error messages here. So I'm going to click on next, but this time, here you go, specify a certificate. Because it's now generated that certificate, it's now available. And at any point, if I wanted to renew the certificate, I could do that from here as well. Again, I'm using Windows authentication, and I click next, and it's saying, do you want to specify the service account? Okay, again, you can specify the service account, or you can use just the default one. Now, it would be good practice to specify a service account, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm not going to do that. So at this point, it's saying specify the authentication certificate, and you can see because one now exists, I've just selected it, and I'm going to click next. Now I'm going to say, yep, this looks all good. I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to configure that role service. And it's looking pretty good. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm now going to go into Tools. And in Tools, you can see that we've now got a number of tools. One of those being the Certificate Authority. So the Certificate Authority, or CA, is your master piece of software that's responsible for maintaining and managing and distributing those certificates. And I can come in here and you can see that we've got the different types. Is the certificate, if it's been revoked, so if somebody leaves the organization, and so on. You can also see that we have a selection of what we call certificate templates that we can use. So these can be used for both users and various services, as well as devices as well. So you can see that, for example, here I've got a user certificate here, and this user is used for, this certificate is used for things like the encrypting file system, or EFS, in Microsoft Windows. Again, just an example. And so again, if you wanted to make copies of these, again, I can go in, I can copy them, I can rename them, and I can actually then publish these certificates to my users. So any issued certificates, you would see them here. So at the moment, I've not issued any certificates. Again, depending on how you're distributing the certificates, you can either distribute them through an online responder, an automated service, or they can be manually assigned to your users. All right. So again, if I scroll down, you can see I don't have any certificate requests at the moment. All right. So just going to close that down. Okay. Now, the next thing that you might want to do, as well as using this particular tool, by the way, if I go into the certificate service itself, this is where you can start and stop the service. You can also back up the certificate authority and bring it back as well, restore it. Very important menu option, that. Now, a really useful tool is I can open up a blank MMC. And the thing that you need to understand about certificate services is there are a number of different portals that you can use. So I'm going to go in here and add remove a snap-in, and I'm going to bring in certificate templates, so I can add that in. I'm going to go into certificates, and when I go into certificates, it says, do you want to bring it in for the user account or the computer account? Again, because this is a server, I'm choosing computer. Also, you can bring in things like certificates and also a certificate authority. So this is the same as that portal that I was just working in a moment ago. And alongside anything else, so again, if you've got any other services that you want to snap in, you can just bring that in, and you can save this MMC as a service, as your own custom administration tool. Okay, so once you're happy, I just click OK, and you can see I've now created my portal. And in here, my Microsoft Management Console, again, here's that CA, the certificate. And you can see that I've got my certificates in here as well. And again, I can view the certificate, and you can see this is showing me this is the digital certificate for the service. And if I go into the details of the certificate, you can see who issued it, what version, so version 3 is the latest, where it's coming from, and again, various attributes. At this point, I can also install a certificate as well. So I can say, hey, I want to go ahead and install this either as a user or as a computer certificate, depending on its type. And it will then say, yep, I'm happy to install it, go ahead, and this was now imported. Okay, so now I click OK, and that certificate has now come in. Just a quick mention, by the way, if I go into certificates on your Windows machine, now because this is a server, there's lots of different types of certificates here, but generally personal certificates will go into this location here. So these are my personal certificates, user certificates, and they go into this portal. And again, you can see when the certificate was issued, the date, the time that it's valid. Every certificate also gets a serial number as well. All right, so that's that particular portal. So you can see that there's lots of different types of certificates there. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at, I'm going to come into tools. And in tools this time, I'm going to come in and have a look at another really important component of certificate services. And for this is all about how do we assign a certificate to a particular service. So I'm coming into Internet Information Services, or IIS, and I'm just browsing down to the default website. And in the default website, we have a container here, and the container is all about server certificates. So if I go into the container, this will show me the certificates that have been assigned to the server. All right, so you can see I've got a couple of ADATM certificates here for this particular server. And one of the things that you might want to do is, again, you might want to import any certificates, and you'll notice that if you do import, let's say for example you bought a certificate from GoDaddy, you'll notice it had a PFX extension. Now the other thing that you can also do, I can also create my own certificates, either through a server certificate, or in this case I'm just using what we call a self-signing certificate, and it's just a personal certificate, again just purely for demo purposes. So once you've created that certificate, what you might want to do is, so that other users can use it, you might want to export the certificate. All right. So I can choose, I can say what kind of certificate do I want to create. Once I've created it, I can now choose to export it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this certificate that I've just created, and I'll just call it something like demo 1. So once I've got that, I'm now going to click on open, and you need to put in a password for the certificate as well. So just pop in a password there, and I'm going to click on OK. All right, so now I've created that. I've just exported that certificate. So the next thing, you might want to import the certificate, and you can either browse to the certificate, or alternatively you can go into Windows Explorer and you can browse for the certificate manually, and you can see it's here, and you'll notice that it's a PFX file, and you can see there that it's only a tiny little file. So if I click OK, and the other way to install it is just simply double click the file, and it says, do you want to install it to the current user, or do you want to import it to the current machine? So again, for this demo, I'm just going to import the user, and it's automatically browsed the certificate. Click next and click on put in the password here. Now, a couple of really important options there. So do you want to import the sharing of private keys? So if you've got other users, do you want, again, from a security standpoint, that's maybe something you don't want to do. But one thing that, if you're going to reuse the certificate, very important, mark the certificate as exportable, because if you don't, you can potentially only have to use this once. Where do you want to import it to? So again, it will just select the location for you, but of course you're quite within your right to click on browse and actually choose. And again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to choose personal. So now I'm going to click on next, complete the wizard, complete finish. So there we go. So we've looked at the installing the server, we've installed the certificates, I've looked at exporting a certificate, and there we go. I've now just shown you importing the certificate as well. All right, and we just click finish there. So the final piece of our puzzle, I'm going to pop back into my Windows server, and I'm going to click on Tools, and I'm going to come back into Internet Information Services. So we've imported a certificate, I've exported a certificate. So the next thing is, how can we establish things like a secure connection? So I'm going to browse down to my default website. So if you want your website to be in HTTPS, the first thing we need to do is go into SSL services. So do you want the client certificates to accept SSL, and is it required or is it an optional? So again, depending on how sensitive your data is, or the sensitive the certificate server is, then it's really important that you select this. Then I'm going to click into bindings, and you can see that point 443 is here. So port 443 is TLS or SSL, and again I'm going to assign it to this IP address. I can also put the host name in here if I want to, which is fine. Again, you can pop that in there, Again, you might want to disable 1.3. That's the latest version of TLS. So if you're not, your system's not up to speed, and again, you can see it's detected the SSL certificate there for SSL. And of course, if you've got other certificates, you can click on the drop-down arrow, and you can also, at any point, you can click on the view option to view that certificate. All right. So there we go. That certificate is now assigned to port 443 on my server. So there you have it, a short video on configuring Active Directory certificate services in Windows Server. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please bump the like button. It really does help my channel. And of course, if you've got questions about this or any of my other sessions, then of course just get them down below. All right, and if you've not subscribed, of course, we love subscribers. So hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you won't miss out on future tutorials. That's it for now. Thanks so much for visiting, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.